Nazi, come here. Cell Squad is something. Don't look off the dance, man. Yo, you want something? Yeah, man. Cell Squad is. Yeah, man. Don't lock it off. Don't tell her. Guess what, Squad? Go buy a peanut from the peanut man. When him a go through in the dance, in a inbox him have everything you want. Herbs by the bud and by the stock. I like the top shell and them a shell down the bar. Watch it, mind you step on them clock.
Welcome to True Island History Channel. Today we're going to talk about Jamaica's capital, Kingston. All of you guys who have been to this beautiful capital, most of you go to shop, whether to buy ground produce or hard goods, whatever. Well, for the most part, Kingston is now renowned for its heavy violence concentrated in certain areas like Matthews Lane, Orange Street, but for the most part, it's a commercial area surrounded by cities, the underbelly of Jamaica, so to speak. But Kingston is the capital and largest city of Jamaica, located on the southeastern coast of the island. It faces a natural harbor protected by the Palisades, a long sand spit which connects the town of Port Royal and Norman Manley International Airport to the rest of the island. In the Americas, Kingston is the largest predominantly English-speaking city south of the United States of America. The local government bodies of the parishes of Kingston and St. Andrew were amalgamated by the Kingston and St. Andrew Corporation Act of 1923 to form the Kingston and St. Andrew Corporation, which is a KSAC in abbreviation. Greater Kingston, or the corporate area, refers to those areas under the KSAC. However, it does not solely refer to Kingston Parish, which only consists of the old downtown and Port Royal. Kingston Parish had a population of around 89,057, and the St. Andrew Parish had a population of 573,369 in 2011. Now you see the contrast. Kingston is only bordered by St. Andrew to the east, west, and the north. The geographical border for the parish of Kingston encompasses the following communities. As I earlier stated, we are surrounded by terrible Girigaris, Tivoli Gardens, Denham Town, Raytown, Kingston Gardens, National Heroes Park, Bournemouth Gardens, Norman Gardens, Rennock Lodge, Springfield and Port Royal, along with portions of Rollington Town, Franklin Town, and Almond Town. The city proper is bounded by 6 miles to the west, Stony Hill to the north, Papine to the northeast, and Harborview to the east, which are communities in urban and suburban St. Andrew. Communities in rural St. Andrew such as Gordon Town, Mavis Bank, Lawrence Tavern, Mount Airy, and Bull Bay would not be described as being in Kingston City. 2 districts make up the central area of Kingston, the historic downtown and New Kingston. Both are served by Norman Manley International Airport, also by the smaller and primarily domestic Tinsipen Airdrome. Now, when was Kingston founded? Let's look at the timeline. Kingston was founded in July 22, 1692, shortly after the Great 1692 earthquake that devastated Port Royal. The original section of the city, which was situated at the bottom of Ligony Plains, was laid out to house survivors of the earthquake. Now, before the earthquake, Kingston functions were purely agricultural. The earthquake survivors set up a camp on the seafront. Approximately 2,000 people died due to mosquito-borne diseases. Initially, though, the people lived in a tented camp on Colonel Barry's Hog Crawl. The town did not begin to grow until after the destruction of Port Royal by fire in 1703. Surveyor John Goff drew up a plan for the town based on a grid bounded by north, east, west, and harbor streets. The new grid system of the town was designed to facilitate commerce, particularly the system of main thoroughfare and 66 feet 20 meters across, which allowed transportation between the port and plantations farther inland. Now, by 1716, it had become the largest town and the center of trade for Jamaica. But what did the government do? They sold the land to people with regulation that they purchased no more than the amount of land that they owned in Port Royal, and only land on the seafront. Gradually, wealthy merchants began to move their residences from above their business to the farmlands north of the plains of Ligonier. The first free school, Wilmer's, was founded in 1729, and there was a theater, first on Harbour Street, and then it moves in 1774 to North Parade. Both are still in existence. In 1755, the governor, Sir Charles Knowles, had decided to transfer the government office from Spanish Town to Kingston. It was thought by some to be an unsuitable location for the assembly in proximity to the moral distractions of Kingston, and the next governor rescinded the act. However, by 1780, the population of Kingston grew to 11,000, and the merchants began lobbying for administrative capital to be transferred from Spanish Town, which was then eclipsed by the commercial activities in Kingston. The Church of St. Thomas on King Street, the chief thoroughfare, was first built before 1699, but was later rebuilt after the earthquake in 1907. By the end of the 18th century, the city contained more than 3,000 brick buildings. The harbour fostered trade and played part in several naval wars of the 18th century. Kingston took over the function of Spanish Town, the capital at the time, and these functions included agriculture, commercial, processing, and main transport hub to and from Kingston and other sections of the island. In 1788, Kingston had a population now of 25,000, grew from 11,000, which was about a tenth of the overall population of the island. So, if the population in Kingston in 1788 was 25,000, then the entire population of the island would be 250,000. Now we are over 3 million. So you see the exponential growth. 1 in every 4 people living in Kingston was white. And there was a large population of free people of color there too, meaning that 2 out of every 5 people living in Kingston were free. The remaining 3/5 of Kingston population was made up of, well, you guess, black slaves. The government passed an act to transfer the government offices to Kingston from Spanish Town, which occurred in 1872. Now, in 1882, there was a large fire in Kingston. In 1892, electricity first came to Jamaica when it was supplied to a coal-burning steam generation plant on Gold Street in Kingston. So we first got electricity in 1892 when it was supplied to a coal-burning steam generating plant on Gold Street in Kingston. Now that is very important in our history. In 1907, 800 people died in another earthquake as the 1907 Kingston earthquake, destroying nearly all historical buildings south of Parade in the city. That was when a restriction of no more than 60 feet, 18 meters of height was instituted on buildings in the city center. These 3-story high buildings were built with reinforced concrete. Construction on King Street in the city was the first area to breach this building code. During the 1930s, island-wide riots led to development of trade unions and political parties to represent workers. The city became home to the Mona campus of the University of the West Indies, founded in 1948 with only a mere 24 medical students. In 1960s, the international attention of reggae music at the time coincided with the expansion and development of 95 acres of Kingston city center waterfront area. By the 1980s, most of the old buildings were demolished by construction companies and an entire waterfront was redeveloped with hotels, shops, offices, cultural centers, and cruise and cargo ship facilities. In 1966, Kingston was the host to the Commonwealth Games. Now that was a major step from where we were coming from. In 1980, the diabolical general elections took place. The Democratic Socialist People's National Party government was voted out, and subsequent governments have been more market-oriented and focused on tourism with relations with the United States, which reflected the turbulent and violent era, yes, very, very turbulent, in which Cuba and the United States fought for culture and control over Jamaica. So you see, that was the era of Henry Kissinger, who was a CIA, and that's a very, very interesting story for another time. In the 1990s, crime increased in the region, and several riots were reporting, including in 1999 against a rise of fuel prices. 1999, the Jamaican government ordered army troops to patrol the streets of Kingston in an attempt to curb the violent crime. In 2001, many army troops and armored vehicles used force to restore order in Kingston after 3 days of unrest that left at least 27 people dead. And that unrest was over in Tivoli Gardens, which was led by a lawman force with joint military units, which was led by Renito Adams, who is a legend in the JCF with regards to crime fighting. In 2010, the Kingston unrest, an armed conflict between Jamaica's military and police forces in Kingston and the Sheriff Posse drug cartel, attracted international attention. The violence, which largely took place over 24th to 25th of May, which killed at least 73 civilians and wounded at least 35 others. 4 soldiers and a police were killed. Now, that was when the large manhunt was in place for Christopher Dodoscope, who was and still is the leader of the Shower Posse, and it was utter mayhem and madness where several people lost their lives. Christopher Dodoscope was caught in the company of Reverend Al Miller, dressed like a female in wigs and dresses and other fabrics akin to feminine gender. So there you have it, a brief history of our large city, the capital of our beloved country, Jamaica, in a synopsis. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we ask that you leave a comment, like, share, and if you have not subscribed, please check that bell icon so you won't miss another story. And please check out the rest of the stories on the channel, and feel free to check out the parent channel, True Island Stories, for your original true gangster stories. Okay, you have a wonderful day. Until our next story.
Nazi, come here. Cell Squad is something. Don't look off the dance, man. Yo, you want something? Yeah, man. Cell Squad is. Yeah, man. Don't lock it off. Don't tell her. Guess what, Squad? Go buy a peanut from the peanut man. When him a go through in the dance, in a box him have everything you want. Herbs by the bud and by the stock. I like the top shell and them a shell down the bar. Watch it, mind, you step on them clock.